The arrival, the forest was quiet that night. The air was cold and heavy with mist. The fire outside the tent was the only source of warmth. A man sat close to it, rubbing his hands together, staring at the flames as they danced in the dark. His small camp was hidden between rocks and trees, far away from towns or other people. He wanted silence. He wanted peace. But on that night, silence did not stay for long. He heard it first. A soft crunch of footsteps on wet ground, slow, careful, almost like something did not want to be noticed. His head turned sharply toward the sound. At first he saw nothing but shadows moving with the wind. The flames flickered and the forest around him seemed deeper, darker. He waited. The noise came again. This time closer. Out of the mist, a figure appeared. At first the man thought it was another traveler, maybe a woman lost in the forest. But when the figure stepped into the light of the fire, his breath caught in his throat. She was not human. Her skin was pale with a soft glow like moonlight trapped under flesh. Her eyes burned bright, not natural, but alive with a light that belonged to no human being. Her hair fell long and silver over her shoulders, catching the light of the flames. She wore strange black armor close to her skin, with patterns that shimmered like moving wires. Every detail of her made it clear. She was something else, something from beyond. The man's first instinct was fear. His body tensed and his hand reached toward the hunting knife near his side. But the figure raised her hand slowly, palms open, not in attack. Her voice broke the silence, soft but sharp, a language that was not his own at first. Then her tone shifted, words bending into English. I need warmth. Her voice carried no anger, only need. The man's heart pounded as he tried to make sense of her. She stood only a few feet from the fire now, and the glow of the flames reflected in her eyes, making them seem alive, burning brighter than before. The man forced himself to breathe. He had read stories of encounters, of strange visitors. He had never believed them. Yet here one stood, fragile and strong all at once, asking for warmth. He moved his hand away from the knife but kept his guard. You can stay by the fire, he said slowly. His words were careful, heavy with doubt. She lowered herself onto the ground near the flames, but not too close. She sat still, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. He could feel her watching, studying, as if every move he made was being measured, judged. The forest around them was silent again, but this silence was heavier, filled with questions. The man wanted to ask who she was, where she came from, what she wanted. But the words stayed locked inside him. His mind screamed that she was dangerous, but another part of him could not look away. There was something in her face, almost human, almost fragile. Minutes passed. The fire cracked softly, throwing sparks into the cold night air. The man reached for a piece of wood and placed it on the flames. The sound made her tilt her head like she was learning, observing every detail of his simple action. Finally, she spoke again. Her voice was low, but this time there was weight behind it, not just fire. I need more. The man stiffened. More? He asked. Her eyes glowed brighter and her face turned toward his tent. The warm orange light from inside spilled out onto the ground. She did not move, but her meaning was clear. His breath grew tight. He had thought she wanted nothing but heat, nothing but the flame against the cold. But now, as she stared at the tent, he felt a deeper need in her words. Something hidden, something dangerous. He swallowed hard, his mind racing. Letting her near the fire was one thing. Letting her inside his tent was another. He was alone. She was stronger, faster. He could see it in the way her body moved, precise and perfect. If she wanted to harm him, she could. But she was waiting, asking. The firelight flickered, casting long shadows across her skin. The patterns on her armor pulsed faintly, almost alive, almost breathing. She was not like the creatures of horror stories. She was not a monster. She was something more, too human to be alien, too alien to be human. The man felt trapped between fear and curiosity. Every instinct told him to send her away, to push her back into the mist where she came from. But another voice inside whispered something else. This moment was rare. This was not chance. This was a meeting written by the stars. She leaned forward, her silver hair falling like liquid light around her face. I need shelter, she said. Then softer, I need you. The man's chest grew tight. His hands trembled slightly, but he forced them still. Her words were clear now. It was not just about fire, not just about warmth. She wanted something else, something she had not named yet. The night seemed to grow darker around them, the forest closing in, waiting. The fire burned low, casting a circle of fragile light. He could feel the weight of her eyes glowing like twin lanterns in the dark. He did not know what choice he would make, but one thing was certain. This night had changed, and it would not return to silence again. Tension in the tent, the man hesitated, his hand still hovering near his knee. The fire burned low, the shadows stretching longer, and the alien girl's glowing eyes held him in place. He could not tell if she was pleading or commanding, but her voice stayed in his mind like an echo. Finally, he nodded, though every muscle in his body screamed not to. He pulled back the flap of the tent, the warm orange glow spilling out brighter. The girl moved slowly, almost graceful, as if every step had meaning. When she passed him, he caught the faint scent of something unfamiliar, sharp and metallic like cold iron mixed with strange flowers that did not belong to Earth. Inside, the tent felt smaller with her presence. The man sat near the entrance, close to the firelight, while she lowered herself onto the ground opposite him. The dim lantern inside lit her face in fragments, showing pale skin, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that pulsed faintly, like living stars. For a while, neither spoke. The only sounds were the fire outside and the faint hum from her armor, a soft vibration that seemed alive. He watched her carefully, afraid to move, afraid even to blink too long. She did not look around the tent, did not study his supplies or tools. She only stared at him, her gaze unbroken, unshaken. It was unbearable. At last he forced out words. "Who are you?" She tilted her head as if considering the question. Her silver hair shifted against her shoulders, catching the dim light. "I am not here to harm you," she said slowly, her accent uneven but clear. "I was sent. I was chosen. Chosen for what?" His voice cracked with both fear and anger. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in threat but in thought. "To see if you are real." The man felt his stomach turn. "Real?" "Yes." Her voice was calm, too calm. "You, your kind, your world. We watch, we learn. But watching is not enough. One of us must come close. One of us must see." Her words made his skin crawl. She spoke not like a wanderer or a lost traveler, but like someone on a mission. The way she said "we" chilled him. How many of her kind were there? How long had they been watching? He tried to steady his breathing. "So you came to my camp?" "To test me?" Her glowing eyes softened, but her stare never left his. "Yes, to test, to touch, to understand." The man's heart beat harder. She leaned closer now, the light catching the strange details of her armor. He noticed faint symbols etched into the black plates, shifting faintly like liquid silver, as if alive. His hand brushed against the fabric of his pants, wishing he had never left his knife outside. But a part of him knew it would not matter. "What do you want?" he asked at last, his voice rough. Her lips parted slightly, but she paused. It was as if she weighed every word carefully. "Not fire, not shelter. Something more. Something only you carry." Her words sank into him like stones into water. He searched her face, but her expression gave nothing away. She did not blink. She did not shift. Her glowing eyes seemed to pierce through him, stripping away every layer, searching for something hidden deep inside. The man shivered, though the tent was warm. He thought of leaving, of running into the night, but the forest outside felt no safer than the being sitting before him. He realized with a sick twist of fear that he might already be trapped, not by ropes or chains, but by the simple fact that she had chosen him. She broke the silence again. "Tell me," she whispered, "what it means to be human." The words struck him harder than he expected. He opened his mouth but stopped, lost. No one had ever asked him that, not in such a way, not with such weight. He almost laughed at the thought, but the look in her eyes killed the sound before it could rise. She was not asking out of curiosity. She was asking because she needed to know. Outside, the forest groaned with wind. A branch snapped somewhere in the darkness. The man turned his head quickly, but the girl did not move, did not even glance toward the sound. It was as if nothing beyond this tent mattered to her. Only him. Only this moment. When he turned back, her face was closer, her glowing eyes larger, brighter. "You will tell me," she said softly, "because if you do not, I cannot leave." The man's breath shook in his chest. He realized something terrible. She was not only asking, she was warning. She would not go until she got what she came for. His voice was a whisper. "What happens if I do not answer?" Her expression did not change. Her lips curved just slightly, almost like a smile, but cold, unreadable. Then the others will come. The fire outside crackled louder as if to answer. The shadows in the tent danced like restless spirits. He felt the weight of the night pressing in on him, the weight of her presence, the weight of something far greater than himself. And in that moment, he understood. She had not stumbled into his camp by chance. She was sent. She was chosen. And now, so was he. The hidden motive. The man sat stiff in the small tent, his back pressed against the fabric as if he could push himself through it and escape into the night. The alien girl did not move. Her glowing eyes held him in place, stronger than any weapon. She waited for his words, but he had none to give. Finally, he forced his voice out, low and sharp. "Why me, out of everyone?" "Why come to me?" Her face shifted slightly, as though she was considering how much she should reveal. The faint light from the lantern made her silver hair shine like liquid metal. For a long moment she did not answer. Then she leaned forward, her voice soft, almost like a whisper. "Because you were alone. Because you had nothing to hide. Because your kind hides too much when they are not alone." The words cut him. She had been watching, studying him. Not just tonight, not just from the shadows of the forest, longer, maybe days, maybe more. He shivered at the thought that every fire he had built, every meal he had eaten, every sigh of relief he had let out in solitude, had not been private at all. His throat grew dry. "So you've been following me," she did not blink. "We have been following many. But you were chosen. You looked at the fire not as fuel, not as survival, but as memory. You're different." The man swallowed hard. "Memory?" "Yes." Her eyes flickered brighter for a moment, like a star trembling. "The fire showed me your face. The way you looked at it. You carry pain inside you. And hope. Both are rare. Both are needed." Her words confused him, but they also unsettled him. Pain and hope. She spoke as though she could see into him, deeper than anyone ever had. He felt stripped bare, exposed in ways he had never imagined. He tried to hold her gaze. "What is it you want from me?" At last her posture shifted. She leaned closer, her face only a breath away from his. The hum of her armor deepened, a low vibration that filled the tent. The symbols on her chest plate glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with her words. "My people cannot feel what you feel. We know logic, we know control, we know survival. But we do not know." She paused, searching for the word. "Connection." The man frowned, trying to understand. "Connection?" Her voice grew heavier. "The bond between one and another. The reason to fight, the reason to die, the reason to give everything even when there is nothing left. We see it in your kind. We do not understand it. And without it, we cannot choose." The word choose echoed in his head. He leaned forward slightly, forgetting his fear for a moment. "Choose what?" Her eyes darkened, and for the first time he saw something like conflict inside them. "To destroy you, or to stand beside you." The tent seemed to shrink around him. His stomach dropped, his skin cold. It was not only about her. It was about all of them, her people, wherever they were, watching, waiting. His chest tightened with the weight of her words. Humanity's fate rested on this night, on him, on whatever she decided to take back from him. He forced a shaky breath. "So that's it. You came to judge me. Judge all of us." Her voice sharpened, but it was not cruel. "Not to judge. To learn, to feel. If you show me, I will carry it home. If you fail, others will come. They will not ask as I do." The man's mind raced. His pulse hammered in his ears. He had never asked to be chosen. He had never asked to speak for all humanity. He was just one man in the forest, one man seeking quiet. And now this creature, this visitor, had placed the weight of a world in his lap. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to push her out, to end this madness. But her eyes, they held something more than threat. They held hunger. Not the hunger for food or warmth, but something deeper, emptier. She truly wanted what she asked for. She truly needed it. Her voice softened again. "Tell me of your heart. Tell me why you live when living hurts. Tell me why you keep the fire burning when the night is long." The man shut his eyes. The memories came unbidden. Faces he had lost, dreams that had died, nights where he had sat with nothing but silence for company. He had not spoken of these things to anyone. And now an alien being, glowing with light from another world, demanded them. When he opened his eyes again, she was still watching, waiting without moving, patient as stone. He knew then that silence would not save him. She would not leave empty-handed. His voice cracked when he began. "I live because once I loved. And once I lost. But even after the loss, the love stayed. It hurts, but it also keeps me. I burn the fire because it reminds me that the dark does not win if even one spark survives. That is why. Her eyes widened slightly. The glow within them shimmered like ripples across water. She did not breathe, did not move, but her stare changed. She was listening, not to his words only, but to something beneath them, something raw. Her armor shifted, the patterns across it pulsing faster. A faint hum grew louder, vibrating through the air, almost like a heart learning how to beat. The man felt the hair on his arms rise, his chest growing heavier. It was as if his words were not only heard but absorbed, pulled from him like threads from cloth. Fear struck him again. What if he had given too much? What if sharing the truth of his heart gave her people power they should never hold? But it was too late. She was already taking it in, already changing in ways he could not stop. At last her eyes dimmed slightly, her expression softening for the first time. She whispered almost to herself, "Now I see. Now I feel." Then she looked back at him, and the calm in her voice shook him more than any threat. "What you have given cannot be taken back, and it will not be forgotten." The man's hands trembled, but he forced them still. He did not know if he had saved humanity or doomed it. All he knew was that the night had grown heavier, and dawn felt farther than ever. The choice. The tent was quiet, except for the hum of her strange armor and the faint hiss of the fire outside. The man sat frozen, still feeling the weight of what he had spoken. His chest was heavy, his throat dry as though his own words had drained him. The alien girl had not moved since his confession. Her glowing eyes flickered in the dim light, softer now, as if she were no longer studying him, but remembering something that did not belong to her. At last, she leaned closer. Her voice was low, almost tender. "I understand your spark, but it is not enough. I must know more. I must feel what you have felt." The man's stomach tightened. "I gave you what you asked," he said sharply, though his voice trembled. She shook her head slowly, strands of silver hair shifting like falling light. "You gave me words, but words are only shadows. I need the fire behind them." Her hand rose, delicate yet strange, the black armor around it moving like living skin. She placed her palm on her chest where the patterns pulsed. "I cannot choose for my people until I feel your truth." The man's heart pounded. "How?" he asked. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Give me a memory." He froze. A memory? His mind swirled with fear. How could he give her something so deep, so private? Memories were not stories. They were pieces of the soul. To share them would be to open himself completely, and yet he could see in her eyes that she was not asking as a trick. She needed it, his hand clenched into a fist. "If I give you this, what happens to me?" Her face remained calm, unreadable. "You will remain, but lighter, emptier. The memory will live in me, and I will carry it to my kind." He swallowed hard. The thought of losing a piece of himself chilled him, but the weight of her mission pressed heavier still. If he refused, others would come, and they would not ask with patience. At last he nodded, though fear burned in his chest. "Then I will give you one, but not because I trust you, because I have no choice." The alien girl leaned forward, her face inches from his. Her hand rose again, hovering just above his temple. The patterns on her armor glowed brighter, filling the tent with a soft blue light. "Close your eyes," she whispered. The man obeyed, though every nerve screamed against it. Darkness swallowed him, but almost instantly the warmth of the tent faded. A strange pull dragged at his thoughts, at his very being, and then like a door opening, his mind spilled into hers. He saw her, or rather he felt her, a vast emptiness, cold and endless, reaching out to him. She was hollow, a shell of logic and design without the warmth of memory. Into that hollow space his mind began to pour. And then it came. The memory he had feared to face. He stood on a different night years ago. A storm had raged, rain lashing against a small cabin. Inside, the fire had burned, but it was weak compared to the sound of coughing. He had knelt by the bed where she lay, his love, pale and fading. Her hand had clutched his, warm but growing weaker with every hour. He had begged her to stay, begged the night not to take her. But dawn had come, and with it silence. The fire had gone out, and she had slipped away, leaving only the weight of her absence. The memory tore through him again, raw and cruel. He felt the sting in his chest. The ache in his throat, the helplessness of that night. He wanted to pull away, to close the door, but it was too late. The alien girl had taken it in. Inside the tent, her eyes glowed brighter, flooding the space with white light. Her body trembled, her armor humming like 1,000 voices. For the first time, her face broke. Her calm shattered into something human, something fragile. Her lips parted in pain, her expression twisting as though she had lived the loss herself. The man gasped, clutching his chest, as the memory was pulled from him like a thread unraveling. When he opened his eyes, he saw her trembling before him, her body shaking under the weight of what she had absorbed. Tears formed in her eyes, strange silver drops that caught the lantern light. She raised a hand to her face, touching them as though she did not understand what they were. "This is sorrow," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is love." The man's breath was ragged. His chest felt hollow, as though a piece of him had been stolen. He looked at her with both anger and awe. "You took it from me," he said harshly. Her eyes met his, filled now with something they had not held before. Not just light, but weight. Feeling. "You gave it," she replied softly. "And now I know. Now I see what your kind carries." Her armor pulsed faster, brighter, the hum vibrating through the ground. The symbols across her skin shifted like living fire. She looked less like a creature from beyond and more like something caught between two worlds. The man could only watch, his chest aching with loss, his heart trembling with fear. She was changing before his eyes, shaped by the memory he had given her. And with that change came danger, because what she would carry back to her people was no longer just a story. It was him. Her glowing eyes fixed on him again, softer now, almost sorrowful. "What you gave me, it will decide. Not me alone, but all of us." She paused, her lips trembling. "I do not know if they will see it as strength or weakness." The man's blood ran cold. He had handed her the most painful, most human part of himself, and now it would stand as the measure of humanity's worth. The lantern flickered, shadows crawling across the walls of the tent. Outside, the wind rose again, carrying with it a sound he had not heard before. A low rumble, distant, like something vast moving through the sky. The alien girl turned her head slightly, listening. A faint sadness crossed her face. "They are near," the man's heart hammered. "Who?" Her silver tears glistened as she whispered, "The ones who sent me." The twist and ending. The night had grown heavy. The fire outside had burned down to glowing embers, and the wind that moved through the forest carried a low rumble, strange and distant, like the breath of something vast above the clouds. The man sat still, his chest aching, his heart hollow, knowing that the memory he had given her was no longer his alone. The alien girl sat across from him, her silver tears fading into her pale skin. The glow in her eyes had changed. It was no longer sharp, no longer the cold light of a star. It was softer now, like the last glimmer of a candle. She looked smaller than before, but heavier too, as if the memory weighed on her. "They are close," she whispered. Her voice trembled in a way it had not before. "The others, they come to see what I carry." The man's breath caught in his throat. He turned his head toward the sound outside, the low rumble growing louder, deeper. The earth seemed to hum under him, and the tent walls shook with the weight of something unseen. He looked back at her, fear sharp in his eyes. "What will you tell them?" She did not answer at once. She pressed a hand to her chest over the glowing armor as though she could hold the memory inside like a fragile flame. Her lips parted slowly. "I will tell them of sorrow, of love, of pain that lives and still chooses to burn." She paused, her eyes shining in the dim light. "But I do not know if they will understand." The man clenched his fists, his voice sharp. "If they don't understand, what happens to us?" Her silence was the answer. The low rumble grew closer until it was above the forest itself. A faint light seeped through the tent walls. Not the warm glow of the fire, not the pale shine of the moon, but something brighter, colder, cutting through the trees. The man felt his chest tighten, his breath shallow. The alien girl stood slowly, rising with grace, her silver hair flowing as though caught in a wind that was not there. She turned to the tent's opening, her armor pulsing brighter now, answering the call of the light outside. The man scrambled to his feet, panic rising in him. "Wait, you can't just leave." "What if they destroy us? What if they see weakness?" She turned back, her glowing eyes softer than he had ever seen. She stepped closer, her hand reaching out. For a moment he thought she might touch his face, but her hand stopped just short, trembling in the air. "You gave me what no one else could," she whispered. "I carry it now. It may save you, or it may condemn you. I cannot choose for them. I can only deliver," his voice cracked. "And me? What happens to me?" For the first time she smiled. It was faint, fragile, but real. "You will live, but you will never be the same. You gave me your pain, and now you carry the silence it left behind." His chest ached at her words. She was right. The memory felt dimmer inside him now. Not gone, but lighter, as if a piece of it had been carved away. He felt emptier, but also strangely free, like a wound that had been touched and could no longer hide. The rumble above grew thunderous. The tent shook as shadows of enormous shapes moved across the sky, unseen but vast, like mountains drifting in the clouds. The light outside swelled brighter, washing through the seams of the fabric. The alien girl pulled the flap aside. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the weight of the sky itself. She stood framed in the glow, her silver hair shining, her armor alive with pulsing light. For a moment she looked almost human, fragile yet unbreakable. She turned her head slightly, her voice soft but sharp enough to cut through the roar above. "You may have saved your world tonight, or you may have doomed it. That is the truth of what you gave me." The man stepped forward, his throat tight, words failing him. He wanted to call her back, to demand she stay, to demand answers. But his body froze, his voice caught. All he could do was watch. She stepped out into the night. The forest glowed with strange light, shadows stretching long and thin across the ground. The shapes above shifted, vast and silent, like giants hidden in mist. For a brief moment the light touched her body fully, and she seemed to dissolve into it, her figure fading until she was no longer flesh, no longer solid. She became part of the glow, rising into the sky like a spark carried upward by the wind. And then she was gone. The man stood in the tent's entrance, the cold air pressing against his skin, his eyes staring upward at the empty sky. The rumble faded. The light dimmed. Silence returned, heavy and complete. The forest looked the same, the fire little more than ash, the mist curling low over the ground. Yet nothing was the same. His chest felt hollow, but also alive in a strange way. He touched his face, half expecting to feel her presence still, but there was nothing. Only the memory of her glowing eyes, her trembling voice, her words. "You may have saved your world, or doomed it." He sank back to the ground, his body heavy with exhaustion. He stared at the dying fire, its last embers glowing faintly. The memory of his love was quieter now, no longer sharp, no longer burning. It lived in her now, carried beyond the sky to beings who might never understand. The man sat in silence, the night pressing close around him. He did not know if dawn would bring safety or destruction. He did not know if humanity would be judged worthy or weak. All he knew was that the choice had been made, and it was no longer his. Far above, unseen in the clouds, the shapes drifted away. Whether they would return in peace or in war, the man could not tell. He only knew that the universe had touched him that night, and the fire of his memory now burned in alien hearts. And as the first pale light of morning crept over the horizon, the man whispered to himself, almost as if to her, almost as if she could still hear, "Do not let them take us for nothing." The fire cracked softly as though answering. The day began. The forest stirred. But the weight of the night would never leave him again.